Hello there everyone, welcome back. I'm Rakesh. I'm a technical expert in cloud development and also a full stack developer. Yeah, so the main intention of this channel is to simplify the life of a developer in a way that it would improve the productivity. So, in a sense, we are going to learn things by experiencing things, and what are the best way possible we can create applications. So why I've chosen database initially with Podman is just because one reason for that is any application, whether it is a small or a big one, there is always a state of it. So you have to store some information. For that you need a database, and the most important thing is how to install it. How how do I know which database to choose, and even if I choose, how easy it is to operate. So all this complexity, or the difficulty that experiences by the beginner is what makes them a little, I would say, you know difficult for them to code as well as to test the applications. So why Podman? Podman is going to help you simplify the installation, the development and testing, as well as for the production environment. So all these things, Podman is the best way. I mean, I would recommend it using for every developer. And this particular video is not about Podman, so I'm just going to show you exactly how I'm going to use it for creating the instance of MySQL container, as well as how to connect it. Okay, so this is how we are going to start. So let's get started. So first of all, what is the requirement? We need a Linux machine, and I have it. Okay, so you take a Ubuntu or a Fedora or CentOS if you want any Linux machine, I would say. Preferably Linux is very important, so every beginner should know how to use at least some basic about Linux system. So I would suggest you to go with Fedora or CentOS, any one of them, or Ubuntu for that sake also. So I have a Linux machine. This is the same machine which I have used, I think, last time at etc OS release is the CentOS, and this is the version 8. Just little bit, the I will repeat it again what I did last time. I have my Linux machine, and what is these two separate windows? So these two separate windows are nothing but in Tmux. So I'm using Tmux out here. So Tmux is one thing which I would recommend every developer to know about it. This video is not about Tmux, but please. And so I know the OS, and what I should know the release of the system. So what is my release? If you see, the kernel version is 4.18. Minimum is required for Podman is for. So if you have an older version, the Podman will not work. So make sure that you have the latest version, kernel version. And how do I install Podman? It's very easy. dnf install Podman. Okay, so I can install it. I've already installed it, but you have to install it with the root user. So I'm first of all made a mistake over here. So we are going to learn everything by making mistakes. So don't think that everything is pre-planned or what. Okay, so in OpenSUSE you have to use zipper install. I think in Fedora it is already installed by default, so that is a plus point for you. And if you want to upgrade it, you can upgrade it like this. but with the root use, of course. By doing in sudo also it will be possible. So I have a Podman. Okay, I'm happy, and now we can do a lot of fun stuffs out here. So I need MySQL now. It is uh, a very important thing. Like to install any software, we need an image. Okay, so now think of image as a setup for you, and what will be an image in the detail. I will be creating a video separately for that. Okay, and to get the image, we have to pull the image. Okay, MySQL pull the image. uh, do I have to do anything in that? Let's see. If I do this also, trying to pull the image, it will select the Docker hub, and yeah. Now I want to know whether I have selected the correct software which I actually wanted, whether it is the same one or not. So make sure that you go to Google and search for MySQL Docker, and for that particular version, MySQL have already created an image for us, and it is available on the Docker Hub website portal. Okay, so first see, yeah, this is the version. The latest 8.0 will be on my machine now, and a little reference, a little small information about the image is, for every image is available. So I would suggest you to go and read a little bit of it before you actually try to use it. Now, this is not a very difficult task, but here always remember that some environment variables or some setup variables will be required before you run the container image. Okay, so uh, we will not go through here directly, and we will create mistakes from here, and then we will see how we can do that. So we will create a mistake by running it in a way that I don't know. So Podman run MySQL. Let's see how idiot I am. So I made a mistake in it, saying something like you have to specify one of the para, uh, environment variable. These are environment variables. So I know basically every MySQL will need a root password. Okay, so let's do it. So first of all, I have installed the image. Okay, not the MySQL. Now I'm using the image to create an instance of that image. So that is called a container instance, and we can create a temporary instance like this, and we will give a the environment variable now, MySQL underscore root underscore password is MySQL123. Okay, and see, MySQL is the name of the image. So a little bit observation uh, over here will is required, and if you see that this particular database runs on this port, so this is the basic thing, and let's try to see that my image is running, and yes, this is running. How can I stop it? I can stop this image instance by running stop command and giving the ID of this container is E9. So I don't have to give the full name of that. So I just give Podman stop E9, and it is stopped now. Okay, so now any database has to have some state, and it has to be stored somewhere. So make a habit of creating a separate user for that, which I've already created, and we'll create a directory for storing the data files. So where I'm going to store it in the folder like this. Now uh, one thing about MySQL is that if you go and see the documentation over here, it will tell you that if you want to store it persistent on your host system, you have to map the container directory with the host directory. So where exactly do I want to store the files will depend upon what is the directory where the container is storing. Okay, so we know by this default, I think um, here it has mentioning over here that where libmysql is the directory where actually container is storing the data files. So I can map this folder of in the container. Now what is the meaning of that also? Let's say I've created this directory and I will create another directory inside that MySQL. Okay, so let's go into that directory. What do I have here? Nothing, absolutely nothing. So when I run the instance, it's going to create the data files in this particular directory. And mind this thing, containers are not permanent. So if you delete it, remove it, or for any reason it stops working, this files, whatever is available on this folder, will not be deleted. So now this is the main aspect of a database. You have to store the files on the system, persistent, not on the container. So for that we have to do volume mapping. Now let's create a proper instance of this container MySQL. Now I'm going to run this. Okay, this is a very basic container directly running on the system. It's not created inside a pod. So for the pod database, I will create it using Postgres, which I will do it in the next video. So Podman run, the name of the container is, let's say, MySQL C, and we will run it in the detached mode, I can say. We will do the port mapping also. So 3306 was the port where it is running inside the container. Now I have mapped it with the 33066 on the host system, so I can connect my database directly, uh, just because it is not inside a pod. Okay, otherwise I would have not done this port mapping. Now I can do the volume mapping from here, where lib mysql z. So this is going to map with the privileges of the user inside the system. Okay, that is what is saying. And I'm going to also give the environment variables. And what was that? MySQL root password is MySQL. Okay, probably you would store a variable like this somewhere in the system. MySQL root password. If you wanted, you can do this thing, but for demo purpose I'm going to directly specify the password over here. Now another environment variable, if you have seen this document, it is saying that we can create the instance by specifying a name of our database. It's not mandatory, but initially if you give it by default, immediately it will create this database with this user and with this password. So let's do that. I think that will be very easy. MySQL database equal to MySQL, and the MySQL underscore user is also MySQL user, let's say, and MySQL underscore password is MySQL user. Okay, I'll give it as password. So my database is MySQL, user is this, and password is this. Okay, and just clear this off. Oops, sorry. Yeah, and I will specify the name of this image, and I think we have done this properly. Detach, and let's run it. Yeah, so let's see the logs of this MySQL C, and yeah, I think it is running. So uh, PS also we can see here it is up, so 15 seconds are gone, it's still up, so it means that our database is definitely running. So how can I check this database? Okay, by do I have to install any other software for that? No, at all. You can run another instance of MySQL. Now I'll show you what exactly I'm going to do. So run another instance of MySQL. Okay, and in that, if you want, you can run bash bin bash. Can I do this? Yes, I can do this. And if I see the command MySQL, it is available here. It means this container is having MySQL command. Okay, and uh, one more thing, I'm running this container with the host network directly. Okay, so the network of this container will be same as that of my host, not of the separate network of the container, so that I can just directly connect with the database. So now I'm going to make a mistake, and let's see what happens if we try to do all this stuff. Okay, because we know that the first time any uh, learner or beginner will try to do something new. So in this way, we are going to see what exactly happens if we try to do something like this. So what I'm saying here is run the MySQL instance with a MySQL command, and I'm going to just give the user over here MySQL user, and password is I'm going to specify that, and host is localhost. Okay, and what is the port number? Port number is 33066. Okay, and let's see what happens. So this is going to ask me for the password, and MySQL password is the password, and it's saying it can't connect to the local SQL server through socket. Okay, now this is the main a very basic error, I would say. Initially don't get discouraged by this error, because mostly the host mapping is done with IP address. Sometimes it does setting like this, but boo, that's strange. How this thing happens? Well, in this particular instance of MySQL, we have to, I think, in CentOS, due to the setting of the local host, the host name, we are we we are actually trying to tell it to run, you know, on the local host of the container. So that is why it can't find. So here, when we specify 127.0.0.1, it is bypassing the local host of the container and attaching, directly connecting with the host network over here. So now this is the SQL. Now I can cheat over here. I know this thing is actually connected with the uh, database of my container, and I will prove it to you in two ways. First, by creating, let's see what are the database over here. So databases, and if you see the name of the database MySQL is already present over here. Okay, so use MySQL, and okay, okay, so I will create a table Okay, let's use MySQL and create table test and the insert into test values 1, and I will commit it and I will exit it. Yeah, that's it. So if you see, I still have one container, the same container which is there, and another one I will prove it this way also by stopping this container. Okay, so how do I stop it? So Podman stop and the name of my container, like this. Okay, so I have stopped my container, and let's see if I am not able to connect over here, the same command which I have run over here, and my SQL password, this should not connect, this is not connecting. And now if I start my container, let's connect this same, yeah, so it is connecting. Okay, so another way of connecting would also be going inside the container by running bin bash. Okay, and I will show you one more way of doing it. But if you see, this is the root user. Okay, no doubt about it, and the root user is mapped with the user of the host which I am currently running. So I can run here also the same command MySQL, and user host is 127.0.0.1, port is 33066, and connect to MySQL database. So MySQL password is the, okay. So what happened over here? It means I have not specified the user MySQL user. Okay, so MySQL password. Yeah, so I can show tables. Oops, so this is test table is already there, so I think I wanted to show this thing. And another way of connecting, let's exit here, would be if I specify the user over here at MySQL. Now why I did is because now I'm actually inside this container with MySQL user. This user is already present inside the container. Okay, if I wanted this, I would have run the container with this user. But let's try to see what exactly happens if I try to connect the database. Okay, so let's see this MySQL user. Now I don't have to specify the user. Let's see if I connect this 33066 and host is 127.0.0.1. Okay, so the user is, I think, MySQL user password, and let's see MySQL password. Wow, so select star from test. Oops, use MySQL. Whoa, so this is my database. I would be able to connect. Now you can create n number of instances of the same image MySQL connected, but we are not playing with here the database. Our main intention was how we can use Podman and easily set up the database. Now one last thing I will do is if you see pwd, and over here the files are already present. Now let's say I will remove my container. Do I have any running container? I can remove it forcefully also, so no problem. Okay, so I have Podman stop EE. Yeah. Wow. So there are no containers in my system. So have my data lost? No. If I run this container, if I create a container again, let's create a container again. I think, yeah. And we'll try to connect the database, MySQL password, and use MySQL. Let's see, let's start from test. So my data is still available. Wow, that's great thing. So I hope this was a little easy video that will help you a little bit simplify using Podman, and we will continue in the next video with the Podman and Postgres inside a pod. Okay, so let's meet again in the next video. Okay, bye.